Hi everyone, welcome to Beyond the Evidence. This is the channel where justice matters. My name is Marv. I am a true crime fanatic, and I love to dig deeper into the mysteries of unsolved cases. Join me as we search for missing persons, uncover the clues in unsolved murders, follow along with jury trials, and we'll be a voice for the voiceless. I'll share with you the facts, the theories, the clues, the evidence, and the controversies that surround these cases. This is Beyond the Evidence. Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? Welcome. Mari, welcome. First time here and looking forward to watching. Well, I'm glad you're here. Tonight we're talking about the Tabitha Shuck Rains case. And there's a whole playlist on the channel. I believe this is episode 31. So, well, hello, Gibbo. How are you? So tonight we're going to continue on. What we're doing is we are reading from the case files on Tabitha's case. And we have gone through the main suspects. We have already gone through the certificate of evidence with police officers, their depositions. And now what we're doing is we're reading individuals' statements or depositions within the file. So we have a good number of these to do. We're going to try to get through at least 2 or 3 a night. Some are long, some are short. We figured out we could get about 30 pages done in an hour. So that's what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to bring Andrea on. Andrea is my best friend from Indiana. And she helps me with this case. She is my memory. She remembers a heck of a lot more than I do. So let's bring her on. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, hello.
So, if we wanted to do a recap on last night and what we learned, what would you say were the key points of last night's statements?
Well, that people still can't tell the same story, for one.
True.
That someone supposedly saw her at 10:30 at night and again at 7:15 at night at the courthouse.
Right.
So that kind of gives truth to the story of she left the house at 6:30.
Right. Well, up until that point, I should say we don't have any sightings of her up until this statement.
Right.
From 6:30, the time she left the house, till approximately 9:30 when she got to the park.
Right.
Gibbo says, "You can say you've forgotten more, Marv." Yeah. And then your mom says she does have a wonderful memory. That she does.
Yeah.
She keeps me in line because I'm like, well, didn't this happen then? And she goes, no, it happened here. I'm like, oh, yeah. So,
and names.
Yes. So I think out of last night, that was the biggest one for me.
Right.
The fact that somebody saw her at 7:15 at night by the courthouse.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have any other statements that state anybody saw her.
No, we have no documents saying anybody saw her after 6:30.
Except for Kyle Neff.
Except for Kyle Neff, right? Until 9:30 when she allegedly was in the park.
Right. So it's interesting, that's for sure. So we're going to start off tonight by reading David Lewicki's transcribed statement. And it has case number 16F13945. And it was on October 8th, 2002. Detective Mike Tarr, Indiana State Police District 16. Detective Tony Frawley, Indiana State Police District 16.
Oh, so I get to play cops.
You do.
Yeehaw.
So you're going to play the police officers, and I'm going to play David Lewicki. I'll try not to cough on you guys, but to be honest, I haven't had a cigarette here in about a week, so I'm coughing up all kinds of stuff yet, but I'll try to remember to mute when I cough.
It's all good.
So,
are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay, this is Mike Tarr from Indiana State Police. This will be a taped statement of David Lewicki, Lewicki, reference a death investigation, case number, and you already read that. Today's date is October the 8th, 2002. The time is 4:38 p.m. Location, Howard County Sheriff's Department. Present are David Lewicki and myself, Detective Mike Tarr. David, would you state your full name, address, and home phone number?
David Leon Lewicki, 133 West 700 North, Kokomo.
Your date of birth and SOCH.
September 30th, 76.
Are you employed?
Yeah.
Where at?
Climatics.
In Tipton?
Yes.
Yesterday evening on October the 7th, did you come into contact with two females in Tipton?
Yeah.
About what time?
I think about 7:30.
And who were these two females that you came in contact with?
Camille Pride and Liz something. I don't know.
How long have you known Camille Pride?
6 years.
Does she live in Tipton?
As far as I know, yeah.
And do you know her address?
No.
Do you know anything else about this other female by the name of Liz?
No.
About how old is Liz?
I don't know.
Is she 20, 30, 40?
Probably 20s. Inaudible 20s.
Is she a white female?
Yeah.
Did you get in the vehicle with these two females?
Yes.
And where did the three of you go at that time?
To a trailer park on Sweetland.
And who lived at that trailer?
Parlow.
Is she a friend of yours or theirs?
Both.
She's a mutual friend?
Yeah, I have no idea the number.
Well, that doesn't make sense. Okay, did you, Camille, and Liz go to Kokomo at some point that evening?
Yeah.
At about what time did you go to Kokomo?
I think about 8:30, 9:30, somewhere in there.
And where did you go to?
Little Daddy's.
And why did you go to Little Daddy's?
Liz's girlfriend worked there, and she wanted to visit her and Inaudible.
Is Liz gay?
Yes.
And this is her girlfriend that works at Little Daddy's?
Yeah.
Do you know that girl's name? What that girl's name is?
No.
But she was working last night.
Yeah.
Is she a dancer?
Yeah.
Did the three of you consume alcohol while you were there that evening?
Yep.
And about how long were the three of you at Little Daddy's?
They left, I think, about 12:30 or 1, something. I'm not sure.
So you were there approximately 3.5 hours together?
Yeah.
Before they left?
Inaudible.
Did Liz make any statements about someone getting hurt or killed while you were there at Little Daddy's?
Yeah.
What did Liz tell you and Camille?
I don't know. She started crying and she said that she was talking about the girl who got killed in Tipton. She said that the police thought she did it, but she didn't do it. She knew Kyle did it, that he blew her head off, and she was real upset about it. She said they think I did it because we were together right before it happened, but I didn't do it.
Did Liz say where her and the victim were at just before she got killed?
I thought she said that they at a club together, and it might even been the same club that we were at.
But you're not sure what club she was referring to.
No.
Did Liz mention there being anyone else present when her and the victim were together at a club somewhere?
I think Liz's girlfriend was there. I don't know. Was
it the same girlfriend that was dancing at Little Daddy's?
I think so.
And you don't know her name?
No.
Did Liz make any statements about how Kyle blew her head off?
I think she might have said the kind of gun. I can't remember for sure. I remember her saying that he blew her head off. She might have said the kind of gun. I'm not sure. I can't really remember. I was drunk.
Did she state, if you recall, if it was a handgun, long gun?
Handgun.
Did she say what caliber?
Yeah, that's what was trying to remember what she said. What kind of gun she said it was. I don't know.
If you think of it while we're going through this, then just tell me, okay?
Yeah.
Was anyone else with Kyle when he killed this girl?
I don't know.
She didn't say?
No.
Do you think she was present when this girl was killed?
If she wasn't, then she knows more than she's telling anybody. She may have been.
Did she tell you where this girl was killed?
No.
Did she mention anyone else's name of who might have been present or might have information about how this young lady was killed?
Brooke Hall's name came up in the conversation somewhere in there. I'm not for sure why or what about. What she was inaudible, and that's all.
Did Camille take part in this conversation?
Yep.
Did Camille have any specific or direct knowledge or information about this young lady being killed?
She kept saying the same thing as Liz did, that Kyle was the one that did it.
Did they ever mention Kyle's last name?
No.
Did they ever mention why Kyle would want to kill this girl?
No.
You stated earlier that you were intoxicated during this conversation, correct?
Yeah.
And you're presently incarcerated in the Howard County Jail.
For PI, yeah.
And were you arrested later that evening outside Little Daddy's?
Yeah.
And is that because your ride left you there at Little Daddy's?
Camille and Liz left, yeah.
Do you know why they left you there?
No, but when I went back in to get my coat, Liz's girlfriend was in there, and I said, "What? Where did they go?" And she said, "I don't know. They said they will be back, though."
Is there anything else that you can remember about this conversation between yourself, Liz, and Camille pertaining to this young lady getting killed?
No.
Did they say anything about how they got rid of the young lady's body?
Yeah, she said that he threw her in the creek.
And do you know what creek they were talking about? Did she say?
She didn't say. I know from, being told they found her in the Tipton Creek Park.
So you heard that from news reports?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add before we conclude?
No.
David, do you swear under the penalties of perjury that the information that you have given us in this, just before we conclude the statement, Detective Tony Frawley has came in and he would like to ask you a couple of questions. Now we're going to Tony Frawley. When were you in the bar? When you were in the bar last night and spent time with Camille Pride and Elizabeth Balser, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever hear any talk of a videotape existing of what took place and how this little girl or how this young girl died? Did you hear anyone discuss a videotape?
No.
Neither one of the girls you were with?
No.
How long were you and Detective Tar, may have asked this, and if he did, I'm going to ask you again. How long were you in the bar with Liz Balser?
I think about 3.5 hours.
And you spent the whole time with her?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, and no talk of a videotape or anything else like that?
No. The only thing that she really kept saying over and over about it was that Kyle did it. That Kyle did it.
And did she ever say who Kyle was?
No. Well, I heard Kyle's name yesterday at work from a guy that I work with, Jason. Said he thought that some guy named Kyle had something on, involvement in it.
Who's Jason?
I don't remember Jason's last name.
Does he work for Climatics also?
Yeah.
But you never did hear Kyle's last name?
I did then, but I don't remember it.
Do you know anybody from Tipton by the name of Kyle?
No, I don't.
And once again, you could have already been asked this, whose car were those two females driving when they picked you up?
I believe it was Camille's.
What kind of car is it? What color?
Black or dark gray. I think it's a Chevy. I'm not positive though.
You sat in the back?
Yeah.
I don't have any inaudible. Mike Tar. David, do you swear under the penalties of perjury that the information that you have given in this statement is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
This will be the end of the statement. The time is now 4:50 p.m. The date 10/8/02.
Okay. So David doesn't say that Elizabeth said that she did it. He
Right.
says that Elizabeth said Kyle did it.
And he also said that he thought they were together before it happened.
Right.
Which would go hand in hand with what Derek Boyd said.
Right. But then again, how can Liz be at Little Daddy's and still be in town at that time of night?
Right.
But that's interesting. And he specifically said he blew her head off and put her in the creek.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened.
And that Brooke Hall that he mentions was Kyle's friend, who is also a lesbian.
Okay. Let's see what anybody has to say here. Just hellos. Hi, Misty. Hi, Miracle Hearts. So that is another witness that is pointing to Kyle Neff as doing this. Do you find that odd that everybody is pointing at Kyle Neff, not Elizabeth?
Well, if they all ran in the same group, then no.
Right.
But he's saying he didn't even know what Liz's last name was.
Right.
So that kind of makes me think he didn't run with them. He just got a ride with them.
Right. Okay. Interesting. All right. What statement are we doing next?
Daryl Ray.
Why am I not? Oh, there he is. All right. And do you know who Daryl Ray is?
Yes, I do.
Is there any context on who he is and how he would be involved in this?
He lived across the street from Roberta, Michael, and Tabby.
Okay, so he's the neighbor.
Yes.
Okay. So all we know is that this is the tape statement of Daryl Ray. I'm assuming JR is J. Rich.
Yes. And BA is Bob Alden.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Are we ready?
Is that the only two that you see? Yeah, Bob Alden and J. Rich. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
J. Rich, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Alden. Joe, what is your... It says Joe, but it's not Joe. It's Daryl. No. What is your date of birth?
5/2/65.
And where do you currently reside?
I live at 4218 South 75 West.
Did you say 75 West?
Yeah.
Thank you. Then, Daryl, have you ever been convicted of any offenses?
No.
Are you working?
Yes.
Where do you work?
E.R. Schroeder and Sons Mechanical.
All right. And where did you live on October the 2nd, 2002?
424 Northeast Street in Tipton.
And did there come a time, strike that, did you know Tabitha Raines?
Yes.
How did you know Tabitha?
Her mother-in-law has been a real good friend of mine, and they lived in the same apartment. And I just knew Tabitha through her. Just watching Tabitha walk up and down the street a few times with her son.
Okay, pause a second. So, back in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
late 80s, early 90s, there was a big group of us that would always ride around and play CB tag. Okay. Daryl was one of them. So was Roberta.
Okay.
So we were all friends through that. So that's how he knows Roberta.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So you lived relatively close to her then?
Yes.
And where was your house in proximity to her house?
Her house is probably 3 doors down and across the street.
Okay. And where was there a time when Tabitha's body was found that the police began canvassing the neighborhood and asked you and the other neighbors if you had seen anything during the previous week?
Yes.
Do you remember who came and what day they came?
I don't remember actually what day it was, but it was the day they found out it was a murder case. And it was Johnny Moses and John Alley of the city police department.
All right. And when they came to your house, did they knock on your door and you answered the door?
Yes, they knocked on the door.
What did they say to you and what did you say to them?
They informed me that Tabitha's case was now a murder case. They found out it was murder and they were going door to door in the neighborhood and asked me if I had seen anything the day she disappeared.
How did you know what day she disappeared?
Because it was on a Thursday and it was my stepdaughter at the time had cheerleading practice out at the park from 5:30 to 6:30, and I got home about 20 minutes after 6, and I just remembered that day. And then when I read the next, well, that Saturday when it was in the paper that she was missing, I started putting things together and remembered I saw her about 10 minutes before they said that was the last time anyone had seen her.
And that would have been on what day?
About Thursday.
So the day after your daughter, the day your daughter and the cheerleading practice, it was that evening that you saw her?
Yes.
And that would have been on a Thursday?
Yes.
And are there certain days of the week that your daughter has cheerleading practice or had cheerleading practice at that time?
I think she had them twice a week, Tuesday and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay. Is there a way that you could check on that to find out what the days of the week were that she had those practices?
Uh,
I mean, who conducted the practices?
my wife used to be the cheerleading coach, and then someone else took it over.
Was your wife the cheerleading coach at that time?
At that time, no.
Who was the cheerleading coach at that time?
Used to be Shuck. I can't remember. It was my step granddaughter's best friend's mom. I can't remember her last name. She just got married.
Did you regularly take your daughter to cheerleading practice?
Yes, because I usually get off work around 5 or so, and I pick my boys up, and then I pick her up, and I take her out to the park.
So how many times did you take her out to cheerleading practice?
Most of the time. If my wife didn't have to work that day, she was working part-time. If she didn't have to work that day, usually I would get back and take her and let my boys play at the park when she would go to practice.
So you were pretty familiar with the routine as far as Tuesday and Thursdays being the days of practice.
Yeah.
And so the way you remember seeing Tabitha is you are positive that you had been at the cheerleading practice with your daughter. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the day you brought her home from cheerleading practice was the day that you last seen her?
Yes.
What was she doing? What occurred that you told police?
I had pulled off North Street onto East Street, and around the corner I saw her pushing the baby stroller. She was right across from my house. She was heading north. I said, "Oh, look, Tabitha is pushing her stroller, and she has got baby out today," because it was a pretty nice day.
What day do you think? What time did you think it was?
About 20 after 6, because Bree's cheerleading practice only lasted 45 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
Then I saw her walking down the street. I pulled in the alley and backed up, and this car came down the street, laying on its horn and everything else, and stopped besides her. And Tabitha stopped, and this girl got out, and they were talking and everything else, and this car went on down the street.
Okay, and so that is what you told the police?
Yes. And they asked,
Did you describe the car to them?
yes.
How did you describe the car?
I told them there was like an older 4-door car, either kind of faded red or faded maroon 4-door, like a Delta 88. I called it a boat. I said it was probably late 80s or early 90s.
Okay, and you say you saw a person get out of the driver's side of the car?
Get out of the passenger side.
Passenger side. Okay, so there was 2 people in the car. Could you tell if the driver was male or female?
It was a male.
And did you recognize the driver?
He looked at me and I got a good look at his face.
What did he look like?
He had short black hair, a goatee, and kind of dark complexion.
Thin face, full face?
I would say he wasn't chubby cheeks or anything, just like a normal face.
The goatee, were you saying it was a mustache and a beard on the chin,
Just on the chin.
or just on the chin?
No, inaudible. Mustache, just on the chin.
Was the car going at a direction when you are standing across the street from Tabitha, or when the car stopped, the driver would have been closest to you, or would the passenger been closest to you?
The driver would have been closest to me.
And was the window rolled down in this vehicle, or was it rolled up?
I don't remember.
You did not know this person driving the vehicle?
No,
Never seen them before in your life?
no.
Ever seen them since?
I seen what I thought was this picture in the paper when they showed the three people's pictures in the paper that day. They arrested.
And so, are you suggesting that the driver you think was one of those people?
Yes.
Do you know for a fact that it was one of those three people?
I said it looked a lot like him.
Okay, so you couldn't positively identify him.
No, it was in a newspaper and black and white, and I couldn't tell if he was dark complexion or not.
So the passenger got out of the car. Were you able to identify the passenger?
No, all I saw was her back and the back of her head, because the angle I was standing when I get out of the inaudible, she had her back to me. I couldn't see her face.
Was the person wearing a hat, or did
No,
she did not have a hat on? What color of hair did the person have?
kind of brownish hair about down to her shoulders, kind of a little bit wavy.
Was it more brown, or was it more reddish brown, or blonde brown, or do you know?
To me, it seemed just like brown hair.
Do you know how tall the person was?
She was a little taller than Tabitha, like 3 or 4 inches.
Could you tell how tall the driver was?
He was in the car the whole time.
Could you hear any of the conversation taking place between the two parties, Tabitha and this girl?
No,
When you say that the person has long hair, do you know girls just let their hair hang straight down? Is that the way that this person's hair was, or was it pulled back or in a bun, or was it?
what I can remember is just that it was hanging straight down.
You say it was a little curly.
Yeah, it was a little wavy.
Do you know what other clothing this person would have worn?
No, not really. It could have been light colored clothes, but I didn't really pay that much attention because I was trying to get my boys out of the van.
Now, you say that your boys had softball or baseball practice.
My stepdaughter, which was 8 at the time, had cheerleading practice, and I had my 2 sons with me, which were 1 and the other was 2.5.
Oh, okay. So you just took them with you to get your daughter.
Yeah, and let them play out at the park the whole time while she has practice.
Now, the car then, how long was the conversation before the car drove off?
She got out of the car and she stood there and they were talking. The car maybe sat there a minute and then went north down the street.
Were you able to just not at all identify the female that got out of the passenger seat, or were you able to make some determination about her age?
It looked like she was, mid-20s, but I never got a good look at her face.
Okay.
Because when she got out of the car, she climbed out of the car and I just saw a shot of her face. She gets out and turned and had her back to me the whole time.
And when the car drove off, did Tabitha do anything?
They were still standing out on the sidewalk beside Tabitha's apartment.
When you went into the house?
When I went into the house.
So how long do you think the conversation took place?
I have no idea. It might have took me 2 or 3 minutes to get both my boys out of the van and all closed up and into the house.
Have you ever seen that car before?
No.
How long have you lived in Tipton?
At that address?
Yes.
At the time, it would have been about 3 years.
And had you lived in Tipton before that?
I lived out in the country.
Did you ever personally know a man by the name of John Yates?
No.
Did you ever personally know a Kyle Neff?
No.
Have you seen her or either one of them before the pictures appeared in the paper?
No.
Had you ever personally seen Elizabeth Balser?
No.
And for sure, Tabitha was walking her son. Is that correct?
She was pushing her stroller. I never saw the baby. The baby was like 6 months at the time, probably laying down or something.
But she was definitely with her son outside the residence at that time. Is that correct?
She was standing outside beside the stroller.
I mean, you have to assume the son was in the stroller.
Yeah, I assume. I mean, where she lived at was a 3-room apartment house, and she lived in the back apartment.
Now, the police then produced a photograph for you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And after you described the vehicle, did you indicate to the police whether or not that was the same vehicle?
Yes.
What did you tell them?
I said, after I described the vehicle to them and stuff,
What did they say to you?
if you've seen a picture of it, do you think you could recognize the vehicle and stuff? I said, I'm pretty sure. They showed me a picture of the vehicle, and I said, yeah, I am pretty sure that is the car I saw that day.
And so your answer was, when we talked before this deposition, I told you we are into details here. Your answer was you were pretty sure it was the vehicle. Are you positive it was the same vehicle?
I was pretty sure it was the same vehicle.
Okay, but my question to you is, were you positive it was? Did you tell them you were positive it was the same vehicle, or that you were just pretty sure it was the same vehicle?
I might have said after I looked at it and stuff that I was pretty positive, inaudible. I said I was positive that was the vehicle I saw. It looked a lot like what I saw the other day.
Now, were there any distinguishing marks on the vehicle?
It was just the paint was faded and stuff. It might have had some rust on it. It was a faded maroon or reddish.
Are you familiar with engines very well?
Not really, but I can recognize cars, you know.
Now, I am talking about motors. Are you familiar with motors at all?
No.
Did this car, when it was sitting there, was it running or not running?
Yes, it was running.
Was it making any noises?
Being 3 doors down, I couldn't hear or tell.
Did you hear it pull up?
Yes, I heard it come down the street.
Was there anything unusual about it coming down the street?
Probably a little loud, but I paid more attention to the horn honking.
Okay, what did the horn sound like?
To me, it was just a regular car horn. It basically started laying on the horn from the corner all the way down to the alley, a couple blocks.
Was there anything about the tires that you noticed?
No.
Do you remember what kind of interior the car had?
I would assume it would be maroon.
No, we are not assuming. This is what is important.
No, not really.
Do you know what kind of interior it had?
No.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. J. Rich. Daryl, do you remember who the police officers were that came by your house right after Tabitha had disappeared?
Yes, sir. Johnny Moses and John Alley.
You don't remember now, a year after the fact, exactly what day they came by, do you?
No.
You just know it was right after.
The day everybody found out it was a murder case and the police knew it was a murder case and they were coming door to door.
So your best recollection is that it would have been Saturday then. That is when they discovered Tabitha in the creek. So do you think it was Saturday when they came around door to door?
No, because they weren't sure it was a murder case yet.
Okay. Do you think it was the first day of the week of the next week then? Monday?
It was like Monday or Tuesday.
If it was Monday or Tuesday, it's been 4, 5, 6 days since you last saw Tabitha. Is that correct?
It was like 4 or 5 days afterwards.
After you had seen her outside her apartment.
Yeah, inaudible. If it was Monday or Tuesday, it was 4 or 5 days.
So would you agree with me that your memory in terms of what day of the week it would have been more accurate or better 5 day after the fact than it would be now?
Yes. So if you told the officer it was Wednesday that you picked your daughter up from cheerleading practice and that it was Wednesday when you brought your daughter back and saw Tabitha, would you agree that is more reliable? Back then, I thought Bree had cheerleading practice 2 days a week, and I knew it was the end of the week, so I thought it was Thursday. It has been over a year and a half, so I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I do remember it was a day Bree had cheerleading practice because I was out at the park.
And would you agree with me that every statement up until today to me in terms of my notes and to the officers was that it was Wednesday about 6:20 p.m. that you saw Tabitha? I can get my notes.
I just thought it was Thursday because I thought Bree had cheerleading practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it could have been after football season when they went 1 day a week. So it could have been a Wednesday.
So if you told the police officers that it was Wednesday for less than a week after she disappeared, would you agree with me that it is more reliable?
Yeah, because I remember seeing Tabitha that day and I read it in Saturday's newspaper that she disappeared.
And when you saw the newspaper article, did you think, I just saw her?
Yeah, because the newspaper said she was last seen at 6:30 and I thought, well, I saw her about 10 minutes before that waiting down the street.
Did you ever talk to Roberta after this about those circumstances?
I ran into her the night I read it in the newspaper that she disappeared, and I asked Roberta what was going on, and she said, well, Tabitha disappeared and stuff. And I said, well, I saw her that day about 20 after 6. And Roberta told me, she goes, yeah, she come in, dropped the baby off about 6:30 and walked right out the door and said she was going to the hospital to visit her friend. I said, well, I saw her out front walking down the street with the baby, and somebody came down the street laying on the horn and was talking to her. Other than that, I took the boys in there and told BJ, well, keep me informed what is going on if they find her or if they took off for a few days or what, because I have known BJ for 5 years.
He knew her for longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
When you said you heard the car coming down the street, what did you hear? The horn?
Yes.
Other than that, did you hear anything distinct about the car?
Just kind of like it was a loud car, but it was just the horn honking because I had just turned out of the alley in front of my street. And I always look in my mirrors and stuff before I open my doors to make sure nothing is coming down the street. And someone turned the corner of North Street just laying on the horn.
Okay, that is all I have. Bob Alden. Who are the other girls that were this cheerleading practice? Does your daughter take it with other girls or just by herself?
Yes, with other girls.
Who are the other girls that were in her class?
One of them was Danielle Shuck.
Who are her parents?
Kenny Shuck, I think he lives up around Grissom Air Force Base, and the other one, Glenda, but she just got married, and I don't know what her new married name is.
You mean her daughter?
Danielle's mother's name is Glenda.
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember what her new last name is.
Was it just the two girls that had the class together?
There were like 5 or 6 girls. I don't remember their names.
What is your telephone number, Daryl?
292 area
You
code
said
5.
you said that your wife did the cheerleading.
She used to be the cheerleading coach. She got a part-time job and she couldn't.
So she was not the cheerleading coach then, October of 2002.
Glenda took over as cheerleading coach, Danielle's mom.
Danielle's mom. Okay. All right. Now, who would know the other girls that were in the cheerleading class?
My wife would. She would know all of the names of the girls.
What is your wife's telephone number?
Lori Ray, and the phone number is.
You think that at home, did you guys have like a calendar for like events for kids, or a lot of families keep a calendar the nights there is a ball game? Or
No, Bree had games on Sundays. Then after the games on Sundays, they would say they would have practices on such and such a day at such and such time.
and who was she cheerleading for that there were games on Sunday?
Tipton Youth Football Game League. They played on Sundays.
Okay, and so Glenda was the one that organized the practice schedule, and your wife would know Glenda's last name?
Yes. And that's how that ended.
I don't know about you, but that was just a bunch of bull.
So basically, he's saying that he saw Tabitha the night she disappeared. Well, maybe now it was the night before she disappeared. And that a girl came out of the car, and it's almost like he's describing Liz Balser. And there was a man in the car, and that sounds like he was describing Kyle Neff, right?
No, because Kyle didn't have black hair.
Oh, that's right. So who had black hair?
I think he was more shooting along the lines of Jonathan Yates.
Of Jonathan. Okay.
But you have to remember.
But Jonathan had a truck.
Right. But if you remember correctly, the person that she was with when she went to the ATM in Kokomo, that Liz went with to the ATM in Kokomo, was a Mexican.
Oh.
And he says he was dark complected.
Right.
But at the ATM in Kokomo, they were in a truck.
They were? So when the picture was taken of the two in the ATM, it was a truck,
Mhm.
not a car.
I'm pretty sure that's what they said. That it was like a little S10 or something like that.
Okay.
Or they asked what kind of car Rudy drove.
So who was in this
'Cause
car?
she kept saying that she was with Rudy Ramos,
Right.
who was her sister's boyfriend.
So then who was the guy in the car?
Well, could that have been him? And they just were driving her mom's car? Because remember, that car was supposed to be her mom's.
And it supposedly didn't work.
Right.
But everything that he's describing is he is describing Elizabeth Balser's car.
Right.
So her car was working either the day that Tabitha went missing or the day before.
Right.
because in that statement, he backtracked and said, well, I guess it could have been Wednesday when
Right.
they kept hammering him about the day.
Yeah. Well, but if you remember, the one person that we talked to that gave a statement that's magically disappeared said it was Wednesday.
Right. No, she said it was the day that Tabitha disappeared.
Which would be Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, yeah. So he couldn't have seen her on a Thursday then.
No, it would have had to have been Wednesday.
And that's what Jay Rich was trying to get at.
Right.
It would be nice if we could just have some consistency
Yeah, right.
in one of these statements. All right. Do we have a short one?
We have one that's 12 pages.
Okay. Who dat?
Brenda Scheffler.
I gotta find her. Hang on. Why am I not seeing her?
It's B period Scheffler. Scheffler. Can't find it.
No, I got it.
Okay.
It was Depo in the beginning, and that's mine goes alphabetical. So
Right.
okay. So who is Brenda Scheffler?
Linda Moss's friend.
And Linda Moss is Elizabeth Balser's mom.
Right.
Okay. So this is State of Indiana, County of Hamilton, State of Indiana plaintiff versus Elizabeth J. Balser. Gives 229-0312-MR-110. The oral examination of Brenda Scheffler. Oh, 118, sorry. Plaintiff is J.D. Rich for the defendant, Robert F. Alden. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Rich, we're in the Tipton County Prosecutor's Office for the deposition of Brenda Scheffler. Brenda is present in the room along with Bob Alden, Elizabeth Balser's attorney, and myself, Jay Rich. Brenda, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, please. Brenda Scheffler, having been first duly sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, was examined and testified as follows. Questions by Mr. Rich. Oh, Hank, scare the crap out of me. No. Tell us your name, please.
Brenda Scheffler.
Spell your last name.
Scheffler.
Where do you live, Brenda?
350 Kentucky. I just moved, sorry.
And who do you live with there?
My mother lives with me.
And what's her name?
Ruth Scheffler.
Ruth, have you lived in Tipton all of your life?
Yeah, the biggest part of it.
For the most part, where were you living in October of 2002?
802 Oak Street in Tipton.
I'm going to ask you if you know some people that have some alleged involvement in this case. And if the answer is yes, that you do, then I'll ask you a little bit about that relationship. Do you know Kyle Neff?
No.
Do you know John Yates?
No.
Do you know Drew Bush?
No.
Do you know Elizabeth Balser?
Yes.
How do you know Elizabeth?
I've known her since the day she was born.
Do you know Linda Spivey?
Yes.
And how do you know Linda?
Linda and I have been friends for probably 20 some years.
So as a result of that relationship with Linda, you obviously are going to know her children.
Yes.
Do you know anything about, because of this case, do you know any dates and days of the week through the first week of October?
The only thing I know as far as the case is what I was involved in on that Thursday.
And you're sure it was a Thursday?
Yes.
And it was the first Thursday in the week of October?
October 5th. Uh-huh.
And tell me what occurred on that day.
Well, sometimes I stop by Linda's when I get off work. I work 14-hour days, and
Where do you work?
I work in Noblesville,
Where at?
Behavior Corp.
Go ahead.
So I get off work at 7 o'clock
Why would you stop by her house?
just to visit.
Just because you're friends?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Sometimes I would stop by after work and we would talk about things, visit for a while.
Okay.
And that evening I stopped by when I got off of work. I get off at 7, so that probably put me getting there at the house about 7:45. And when I got to the house, Elizabeth answered the door, and she must have just gotten done taking a shower because she had her hair up in, like one of those turban things or a towel. And she always calls me Brenda Lee. And she said,
What did she call you?
Brenda Lee, because that's my middle name. And she said, Hi, Brenda Lee, come on in. She said, Mom's not here. She just ran Diana and them home. She said she'll be back in just a little bit. So I went in and was just visiting with Lizzie for a while.
When you say ran Diana and them home, do you know who them is?
No, I mean, that's all she said.
Sure.
And so we visited for just a little bit, and then Linda came right back, and
What time did Linda get back?
I hadn't been there very long, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes when Linda came back. And it doesn't take that long to get from her house to Diane's house.
Where was Diana's house?
It's out here on 19 by where the bowling alley is. I'm not sure of the address. So Linda came back in, and Liz started bugging her about wanting her to fix her hair and stuff. And she told her she didn't have time because she had to go meet Bob. And Elizabeth was begging her to braid her hair. So she fixed her hair, and Liz wanted her to drop her off uptown. And Linda asked me, she told me, she said, I'm running late. She said, Bob's supposed to be calling. She wanted to know if I'd stay there and wait for him. And she was going to run Lizzie to town real quick and then come right back and see if he'd called. And I said, yeah, I'll stay here and wait for him. So she left to run Elizabeth uptown and dropped her off. In the meantime, while she was gone, Bob called, which was what she was afraid of. She'd miss his phone call. And so she told me if Bob called, just to tell him that she was running late, but she would be out there to meet him just as soon as she could get there. So when he called, I told him, I said, Linda's on her way. I said, she's running late. She said she'll be there as soon as possible. And so she came back. And when she came back, I told her Bob had called. She said, it figures. I missed his call. So she grabbed her bag, some bags she had. She grabbed her bag, and I picked up my purse, and she left. And I left because she was running late to meet him. So I was probably there from the time I got there to the time I left, maybe a total of 45 minutes.
Had you been to Linda's home any other day that week other than Wednesday?
Normally during the week, I stop by there on Monday or Thursday because Tuesday and Wednesday night I work until 8. So it's really late for me to get back to town.
So average, how many times a week would you say, at least during that period of time, would you stop by and visit with Linda? Once a week, twice a week?
Inaudible. Stop by at least once a week. I have Fridays off, so a lot of time I'd go out there on Friday. I'll stop by once during the week and then go on Fridays and we'll sit and visit after Bob goes to work and stuff.
And when you say Bob,
Her husband.
and do you recall what Bob said to you during this conversation?
No, I don't recall word for word. I know he asked if Linda was there, and I told him she said to tell you that she was running late, but she was on her way. She left to take Lizzie to town, and she'd be out there. But I don't remember exactly anything else other than that. I was supposed to tell him that she was running late and she was on her way. We didn't talk for very long.
So you have no contact personally by phone, indirectly or directly, with Elizabeth or Linda on Wednesday the 2nd or Tuesday the 1st?
No. I have inaudible. Like I said, I have to work until 8 o'clock on Tuesday and Wednesdays, which is 8:30, quarter till 9 by the time I get back to town.
Mr. Rich, no further questions. Cross-examination by Mr. Alden. When you two left, you had your car and Linda had her car. Is that right?
Yeah, she picked up a bag and she told me, she said, Bren, I hate to cut you short, she said, but I've got to go. She said, I'm supposed to meet Bob out to 28 and 31. She was going to go get some money from him.
Did you know they were separated at the time?
Yes.
And did Liz say anything about why she was going downtown?
No, she didn't say anything to me personally. She just asked Linda to give her a ride to town.
Do you know if Liz's car was at the house when you were there?
Yes.
So did Linda take Liz to town in her car or in Liz's car, or do you know?
I don't know. I was sitting in the dining room of her house, and I didn't see which car they left in.
But there are two different cars we're talking about, right? Linda had a car and Liz had a car. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that she would have had to take her in her car because I don't think Lizzie's car was running. She's been having a lot of trouble with it. And Elizabeth's car was sitting in the same spot when I left, same place it was when I got there. But when she came back after taking her to town and dropping her off, she just, like I said, she just picked up her bag and I got my purse and she left in her car by herself and I left in my car by myself.
And when you say her car, Linda's car, you're talking about this black Chevrolet? You have to answer for the tape.
Yes.
Mr. Alden, I have no further questions. Mr. Rich, nothing further.
All right. So what was the purpose of this statement deposition is to prove that Elizabeth Balser's car was not working. And then
Correct.
that night, her mother took her up to town. Which clearly contradicts Andrew Bush and Kyle Neff's statements of
They were in Liz's car.
They were in Elizabeth's car and Elizabeth was driving that night.
Ding, ding.
Yeah. So my question is, why didn't Jay Rich believe this woman and still go with the official story that Elizabeth was driving around town and Kyle Neff was riding with her to the park and all that good stuff?
Because he knew there wouldn't be a conviction.
Right. Well, in the end, he didn't get a conviction anyways.
That's what I'm saying.
And now we know why he didn't. Because
yeah, all signs didn't point to her.
Huh?
There was all signs pointed away from her.
Right. So with everything that we've read, the actual prime suspect should have been Kyle Neff and Amanda Neff.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. Kyle Neff and Andrew Bush were the key witnesses in the prosecutor's case against Elizabeth, Jonathan, and Kyle Neff's supposed involvement carrying the body. But Jay Rich had plenty of other testimony from other individuals showing that it wasn't Elizabeth Balser. But he still went ahead and prosecuted her as the main suspect of killing Tabitha. Now I'm beginning to understand more why the charges against Jonathan Yates were dropped and nothing was done.
Yeah.
Because all of this is coming
Nobody
out.
knew him.
Huh?
Nobody knew him.
Right. Well,
and not hardly anybody mentioned his name.
And not only that, I mean, come on, there's enough. We're reading enough things here that show that Elizabeth Balser wasn't the lead person in this and that did the shooting. Everything points back to right now Kyle Neff and Amanda Pratt. And especially Kyle Neff. But Jay Rich was good friends with Kyle Neff's mother. Does that mean he did some fudging to make it so that Kyle Neff would not be the main individual?
But didn't we also hear that Liz Balser's mom worked for Jay Rich?
True. And that they were also friendly.
Mm-hmm. It just blows my mind. It's conflict of interest all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to enough people to know that it's been said that allegedly Jay Rich was fooling around with Elizabeth Balser's mother and Kyle Neff's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting. Very interesting. I can completely see, Andrea, why Elizabeth Balser was acquitted.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got more statements and depositions coming up that are going to have things in them that make me go, why did Jay Rich even do this?
Yep. And make you scratch your head.
Yeah. That's all right, Mark. We're almost done for tonight. Absolutely. But there's a lot of things that don't match up with the official story. And tonight we're reading more of them. It's a shame because I feel a shoddy investigation was done by Jay Rich. And that he just figured, okay, they want somebody to take the fall for this. I'm going to throw everything at Elizabeth Balser that I have take a shot and see what happens with the jury. And we all know the jury found her not guilty, and I can see why. He did not have a preponderance of evidence. There was too much reasonable doubt.
A lot of it.
Yeah. And I could see why he dropped the charges of Jonathan Yates. I mean, he already looks like a fool by having Elizabeth acquitted. And he knew that Jonathan Yates' attorney was probably chomping at the bit to get his evidence out and show that Jonathan Yates didn't have anything to do with this. And J. Rich didn't want to look like a bigger fool.
Yeah, because he didn't drop the charges on Yates until after her trial was over.
Right. As soon as he knew he lost this one, he dropped the charges on Jonathan Yates. And I understand it now completely. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I said last night that the angel pins were in. I have them.
Back it away, it's blurry. Put your hand behind it.
Better?
Yeah, because it was trying to find your face and not.
So they are purple. They are angel wings. It's a pin that you can wear. We are selling these one for $12, two for $20. And you need to pay the shipping. And this is going to go towards the defense fund. So if you would like a pin, please contact me, and I will make arrangements for payment and to get them shipped to you. You can message me on Facebook. You can email me at beyondtheevidence1. So beyondtheevidence1@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Facebook, and I will get you your pin.
Yeah, I know where you can do the shipping pretty cheap.
Yeah. So once again, here is the pin. These were shown on the memorial walk, and a lot of people had mentioned that they wanted one. So Misty, I'm going to put this on my community page with a picture. Misty and others in here, if you will let Anthony's chat know about it, because I know they were really interested in it for the memorial walk. And
put it on your Facebook pages.
Yeah, and I'll put them on the Facebook pages too. Just let them know how to get a hold of me, because I know a lot of people that were watching the memorial stream were interested in getting one of these pins. So, all right. With that said, we're going to end tonight's segment. I believe I set up next week's segments on Tuesday and Thursday already.
Yep.
And I think I did the following Tuesday. I just got to do the following Thursday and get that set up. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, right now for the next few weeks, we will be doing Tabitha. Reading through this, getting through this long list of statements and depositions. If you have any information or comments, please email me at beyondtheevidence1 @gmail.com. All right, Andrea. Thanks for getting me through tonight with my headache.
Not a problem.
Keeping
I got you.
Keeping me focused. So I really appreciate it. Give that grandbaby a hug for me so I can see her.
You're missing it.
I know. At least you share pictures with me.
All the time.
All right, everybody. Remember, it doesn't matter how long it's been, justice matters. And we are searching for justice for Tabitha Shuck Rains. I'll see you next week. Actually, we'll both see you next week for next week episodes. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.